Namaste, everyone. Welcome back to my channel, IndigoAngel. Welcome if you are new, and thank you for returning. Thank you for your love and support. Today, I have a special announcement that I will release after I go through my Starseed energy update, which I'm going to try to make the energy update quick, as I feel that I'm excited to talk about my announcement. So, just a quick run through, as we are shifting into a new lunar tone according to the Mayan calendar. So really big shifts here actually as we go through this new tonal lunar gateway that, we are aligning to cosmically to the vibrational particle rotations of the higher densities on Earth. We are shifting into the 12th lunar tone, which represents a base tone and an overtone. So I've been finding it interesting that even tones, creational tones, can be dualistic, because here we are in the highest lunar tone, vibrating and attuning at high Lyran frequency. Lyran frequency felt 10th through 12th density, but yet still hearing and vibrating to two sets of audible sound tones, the base tone and the overtone, which also coincide to the particle, which is the matter, and the antiparticle, which is the dark matter, structures of atoms, and how these tones alchemically shift matter, drive, and direct manifestation. So it's all a beautiful process, really, especially as these Lyran tones and harmonic celestial frequencies communicate through our earthly bodies in neurological genetic functioning. So how I kind of look at it is through each lunar Mayan calendar. So each 28-day cycle is a new lunar tone. So there's 13 tones of creation according to the Mayan calendar. And then I just take those tones and I coincide them to the density bodies of Earth, first through 12th density. Okay. And within each density or dimension, I don't really like to compare densities to dimensions, because I feel like even the word dimension has become somewhat distorted in the spiritual community, just because it can represent so much vastness. I feel like dimensions actually represent more of a vibrational experience, or even just any type of differentiation in energy, period, whether it's a vibration or a light spectrum or any tone, anything like that. It could be considered a dimension. I like to think that density actually represents maybe the clarity of matter. So the less dense you are, the better that you can see through these spiritual dimensions through matter, essentially, if that kind of makes sense. So I look at the eternal Kristalla Cathara grid, which is 12th dimensional. It is the eternal structure, and within each of those spheres or sephiras, they coincide to a density or also a galactic radial wave light frequency. So essentially, the 10th through 12th density would represent the high Lyran council. And I coincide that to the tone that we are experiencing in the Mayan calendar. So now that we're in the 12th tone, I say we are in a full celestial awareness of the Lyran radial light waves. And within those Lyran radial light waves, we are experiencing multiple other celestial bodies. So it is a very vast, multidimensional experience when you come into celestial consciousness, and it is the understanding that each one of these celestial radial light waves also represent a sphere within etheric matter, within super etheric matter, within subatomic matter, within the toroidal field of Earth, within the bioenergetic field of Earth, that these radial light waves, these densities, that these celestial spheres interlap and interweave. So even though that I'm speaking of the Lyran high celestial radial light waves, we are still an accumulation of multiple other celestial bodies that I am going to talk to you a little bit more about here, about which ones were actually really having a heavy influence on us this month. Okay, so it's all just, it's all a beautiful process, really. The Lyran tones, communicate through our earthly bodies and our neurological system, and, it affects our soul genetic functioning, and it's driving our cognition, our reactions, our responses. Like I said, the 12th tone can be thought of as the 12th density. So according to the Mayan and according to many other systems of spiritual structures that I look into, the 12th tone represents the crystal tone, or the Kristalla, original vibrational audible sound tones, that aligns planetary consciousness and ultimately human consciousness to universal harmony and cooperation in higher states and ascended avatar awareness, Christed consciousness. Okay, so planetarily, the Earth's consciousness is coming into this quantum energy. And so this is going to exacerbate human quantum. Human quantum links up to planetary quantum, and therefore, as a collective, we are all going to be ascending into the 12th density, consciously aware or unconsciously aware. Humanity as a whole shifting into the planet's quantum of high density harmonizations. But before we ascend, we always go through a descension of some kind. So, it's through an internal absorption, because there's 3 ways that the human body will respond to photonic radial light waves, and that is through absorption, transmission, and reflection. So we will naturally absorb all energy frequency, okay? Maybe not all, because there is some reflection, there is some transmission, but we do go through an absorption. And through that absorption, it accumulates in our descension. And it's actually what's happening is we internally absorb our environment, our relationships, our thoughts, anything that has been suppressed. All of this is being compressed inside, and it forges you through the ascension fire of self-realization and clearing. So we're actually going through this process right now. We were going through this descension right now as this new moon that's approaching. Okay, so we're physically being squeezed diagmatically, energetically, of all that needs to come up to be released before you can fully enter into new awareness and new tones, expression in its entirety. So the new moon in Gemini is one we must stay conscious through, as the new moon and the sun are both in Gemini on June 3rd. So Gemini is going to highlight our humanism, and it amplifies or illuminates the third dimensional frameworks of duality, as Gemini represents the 3rd house, the house of self-consciousness. All aspects of self-consciousness, down to the creational manifestation of atoms, are dualistic in expression. Gemini new moon will highlight this realization internally, and many may go unconscious to the absence of the new moon's light in the sky, casting the self-realization due date to Capricorn's full moon, where one will harvest under the watchful eye of Saturn's authority, as Capricorn is ruled by Saturn. Okay, so this month is going to be interesting to see how it plays out, because, like I said, even the highest creational tones are dualistic, a base tone and an overtone. So as we ascend through these highest states, we are still being brought back to our humanism in every moment. And we're truly just, being challenged by the universe to what are we going to choose? What does it come down to? What are we going to choose? All I have to say is stay hyper aware this month, as cosmic energy and shifts are going to be highly intense. Just pay attention. You don't plant any duality seeds in this new moon. We're all being challenged right now by Source and the universe to see what we're going to choose in every moment. And okay, so not only do I look at the Mayan, but I also look at the Egyptian Kemetic calendar as it's not necessarily the sidereal calendar, but it does give more of the spiritual framework as to what the Egyptians were worshiping at this time. And up until June 7th, they were basically under the rule of Hathor. So strong Pleiadian influence up until June 7th. And this goddess was the universal cow goddess, and she is connected with healing and childbirth, and she determines the destiny of a child at birth. She is the warrior goddess and is represented as a woman with bull horns on her head with a solar disk between them. Okay, so sounds a little bit like Isis, which, this is Isis. Isis is the accumulation and the embodiment of all goddess. So everything is under Isis's rule, but more specifically, we're going to go with just the Hathor for this energy update. But essentially, she is worshipped on earth as the holy white cow. A lot might be stirring up right now that has to come along with animal cruelty. I know this is something that has been really stirring up in my family. I even came out and one of my daughters was crying because she actually came across a video of, what happens to pigs, and the manufacturing of animals and things of that nature. And so I just feel like the awareness of animal cruelty is coming up. I think some of the darker aspects of humanity's dualism is kind of coming up to the forefront right now through these higher tones. It starts to bring up and shine light and cast more light into the darkness. And so I feel like it really coincides with the Egyptian Kemetic calendar and being under this rule of Hathor that, Hathor revealed specific sacred animals, born under this month: the monkey, the bull, the cows, the vulture, the catfish, the sacred bull. All of these were forbidden to consume or to kill any of these animals, as they revered them as very sacred and very honorable. And so I just feel like it really kind of comes up with the dualistic energy that's kind of being really highlighted at this time, even though we are going through these high tones. I mean, we are in the highest creational tones on earth, but yet more light is being casted into the shadow. And so I think just more of it's coming up to be exposed. We really have to be aware this month of what we're manifesting. Where are our intentions? Where are they? Are we pure? Are we manifesting pure energy exchanges? Are we self-checking? Are we looking at our own ego and how we're projecting? And, are we looking at our righteousness and our humility and our honesty with ourselves? And I think that's what it really comes down to, is are we being honest with ourselves? So you'll notice that a lot is just presenting sensitivity-wise, to me or anything as being impure. It might be an increasing in awareness inside. I also feel that we're under some pretty profound celestial influences right now. So not only are we under the Pleiadian influence, Alcyon, but Aldebaran. Okay, so this is a fixed star, Aldebaran, which is considered the star of Archangel Michael. So a lot of things of justice are being, pushed to the forefront right now. If there's injustices, if anything needs protecting, if anything needs any type of revelational energy or awareness that's all, coming up under this Aldebaran influence. Another big one right now is El Nath. If anybody's heard of El Nath, which is actually the star that is the tip of the bullhorn. So Hathor being the bull goddess, El Nath also having a strong Saturn influence. So that the tip of the horn of El Nath is actually the point of attack. So it was viewed as the force of the bull, thereby having power over the waters or blood of life, and thus can symbolize a great and terrible weapon, potentially destructive skill that can be used to destroy or to give life. So I want to keep this energy update light, and I want to keep it, focused on the positive, focused on what is going to shift the vibration and be more in alignment to the universal harmony of these high Lyran energies that's coming through the Pleiadian dimensional frequency waves, that's coming through the Aldebaran frequency waves, that's coming through the El Nath. But we do have to be aware of the dualism, because everything in creation is dualistic. And so the more that we, are aware of that, then the more ability we have to transcend into wholeness when these situations present or when these awarenesses come about. Many of you who are in alignment to this frequency transmission and energy update that I'm presenting right now may even start aligning to scarabs and beetles. This was one thing that was kind of coming up into my awareness. My guides, my intuition has been showing me beetles and scarabs. So I really feel that we're going to probably be going through some pretty intense self-realizations up until about June 8th. I think we're going to, the new moon, we're really going to have to stay conscious and aware that we don't cast ourselves into any unnecessary suffering. Essentially, I think the energy is really going to shift around June 8th. And I really do feel that the full moon in Capricorn on June 17th is going to be a peaceful full moon. I really, really do. But there is just a lot of Saturn influence. Like I said, El Nath is influenced by Saturn. And then also, Capricorn's influenced by Saturn. And so we really do have to be aware of Saturn when it's present, especially when it's obviously present. It means that we're blending authority with responsibility, and it means that we're coming into a lot of self-realization and self-awareness, and it is to redirect our focus back to what is in the highest good of everyone who's involved. And the more that we can align to that awareness, the easier we're going to get through these transitions of radial energy, of radial light waves. But essentially, I think the major shift will be June 8th, where we're actually coming into a new goddess worship in the Kemetic calendar. And this is actually Nefertum, and is a creator god who is also self-created and symbolizes the creation of the world and is shown coming out of a lotus flower. He is one of the oldest gods from the primordial waters, and he has opened the doors of the first Nefertum characteristics, always including looking for a new way of going about life. He is comfortable with diversity. Sacred animals for those born in this month include snake, vulture, catfish, and sacred bull. One is forbidden to consume or kill these animals. So like I said, a lot of awareness about animal cruelty and manufacturing of animals coming up. Okay, so stay tuned to my channel, because tomorrow I'm going to be having a special guest, and this is what I wanted to tell you all about. I'm very excited to have Neil Stephen Cohen on my channel, who has been working professionally for 30 years teaching about basically EMF protection. So I know that a few of you have reached out to me and have expressed your concerns about the 5G and have asked my opinion on it. And so I actually reached out to Neil Cohen, who has been studying this for 30 years. He claims to not be an expert on the subject, but he's very, very passionate about it, and he has a lot of knowledge. And I really think that it's going to be great to have him on my channel, as, you know, this concern about the wireless radiation and the serious environmental issues that we're facing, such as GMO and geoengineering of the skies and, you know, aka chemtrails. It's the number one most serious issue of our time right now. So it's kind of a big deal, you know. 5G will be using gigahertz frequencies in the dozens up into the hundreds, for example, 20 gigahertz up to the hundreds. So right now, most wireless frequencies are between 900 megahertz and 2.4 gigahertz, 2.4 billion cycles per second. The highest frequency we'll be using are untested, and nobody knows what the health effects will be. The 5G transmitters will be throughout neighborhoods and through cities. So they will be located outside people's homes where they work. And so, you know, a lot of people are going to be under a lot of exposure of this 5G wireless radiation. So I'm excited to bring Neil on and talk more in depth about this. So I'm excited to share this experience with all of you. And it does coincide with ascension symptoms. So as you're bringing your physical body through up to these higher dimensional existences and experiences and vibrational realities, you're essentially, witnessing your evolution on a subatomic level. And through that subatomic experience, you're watching your body go through many, many physical ascension symptoms as we basically adjust to our new existence in reality. And every second, this is shifting, this is changing. We're coming more into a faster, higher, more electronic, technological lifestyle. And so we do have so much more exposure to EMF and radiation and things of this nature that it does exacerbate ascension symptoms. So, and then is being mistaken for ascension symptoms. So some may be experiencing just severe reactions to EMF and radiation and getting confused for ascension symptoms and vice versa. So I really think there needs to be some clarification on that as well. So because if you're having ascension symptoms such as, brain fog and, sleep patterns being disrupted, psychological behaviors being disrupted, getting sick, having stomach issues, not being able to eat, getting diarrhea even for days, like all of this stuff is considered ascension symptoms, but this also equally could be EMF exposure and wireless radial electromagnetic exposure to 5G gigahertz frequencies. So I really think that it's time that we start talking about some of this stuff, especially in the Starseed and spiritual community, as we are some of the most highly sensitive empaths, that feel and experience everything down to the nano device, down to the nanoparticle rotation. We are feeling and experiencing it. So we're aware of this evolution in this time and these agendas, these trans-harmonic human agendas that are being pushed. Well, namaste. That's all I had to say tonight, but I hope everyone stays well. Have a wonderful, beautiful night, and I will be back with my interview with Neil. Have a great night.